This is round 3 of the World Rapid Chess Championship. Carlsen has white versus Grandmaster Potkin, and game opens with e4. We see a Sicilian Defense, Taimanov, with knight c6, queen c7, and a3 is there. Watch out for this pin. f4 gets rolling, and now we have this knight kicking the dark square bishop around a little bit. Queen to b6, offering a queen exchange. d6, some pressure on f4. e5, knight takes bishop. There's no time to take here. This queen is hanging, so the queen has to drop back. And now bishop e7. So this was one move that I kind of wondered about. It seemed very natural to me to move the bishop to c5, and that could very well be a fine move. But I guess a reason to want to tuck the bishop all the way back here is to watch over both dark squares for one, and also to avoid an eventual tempo gaining move against the bishop. Notice that by playing to c5, sure, you're hitting the queen, but at the end of it, what do we have? White will eventually be able to gain a tempo back against the bishop with knight to e4. So I believe he's just dropping all the way back for that reason. Or for those two reasons. To watch over these two squares that the pawn watches over and avoid a potential tempo gaining move with knight to e4. So, after bishop e7, queenside castle, b5, knight e4, opposite sides castling, and, well, we're looking to attack one another's king. Bishop b7, we're 15 moves in, and now comes knight f6. It's a sharp move. And how are we looking here after bishop takes knight? There are alternatives, of course. E takes f6. What can you do here? You could give a check, and then play queen to h4. You have to defend against h7. Then you drop the bishop, but the queen is there to defend these dark squares. This is a relatively even endgame. Not sure how. Well, I believe white is the better side due to still this slight space advantage and having pawns already well coordinated with the bishops, having them on dark squares. This is not a variation we went into. Instead of instead of pawn takes, we had bishop takes. And after pawn takes, now we had a big misstep with g6. This is still quite all right. It's leaving your king vulnerable to this maneuver, as we saw previously when the bishop was still on the board on that e7 square. You stop this. There are these checks you could be giving, but I don't know if you could get so much more. There might have been potentially some fear of, let's say, I'm not even quite sure. I think there might have been some fear of opening up of the G file. This is not the easiest to maybe calculate. The queen can grab that pawn for one. You can also grab this rook, but maybe it's still, well, not in that position. Maybe at this point it's still a little bit scary, right? This queen is in a very strong position, and now you have to worry about moves like rook to g1. The computer is recommending queen to g4. Maybe that's a teetering on an only type of move. So maybe quite difficult to calculate all of that. I'm not quite sure what was running through Black's mind, but he didn't go for that variation of capturing. Instead it was g6, and now this pawn is officially a giant thorn. f5 is strictly a clearance move, looking for a quick kill, mate in 2. You need to get rid of this pawn. He's a #1 priority, so immediate pressure is placed on him. And now queen to g5. Computer recommendation was to play here, knowing that if queen takes, you could take on g6. You're hitting the queen, and this pawn is going into Pac-Man mode, ready to grab on h7 with check. So that was an interesting opportunity maybe for Carlsen right here to play first rook on h to f1, but instead it was directly defending f6 with queen g5, rook c8. Now we have the capture, and white is smashing through on g6. The queen could take on here, but now there's an interesting shot with bishop takes h7, discovered check, well, I should say just double check. If king takes bishop, now would follow rook takes on d, and this is going to be bad news soon. If rook f7, you take the queen, and if the king moves here, you're going to get mated. Queen h5, soon enough queen h7. So after bishop takes on h7, we don't have king takes, but rather king h8, queen h5, setting up a discovery, the bishop move somewhere, king g7, here comes the rook, rook f7, the bishop drops back. There's just too many threats. This king is completely naked. Perfectly fine king for white. Ideas of queen to h5, we do see that in the game, but also since this bishop dropped back, we have now this sort of idea, rook f1, potentially hitting the queen. If maybe if the king is over on the f-file, there'd be some skewer. Too many threats, and you really can't deal with all of them. One check is thrown in, king b1, rook takes, queen h7, and after queen h7, regaining that piece on d7, black simply throws in the towel. There's just too many threats. Pressure on the rook, bishop. This is the main one. And how do you really defend? Let's run with one. Bishop takes on g2. There's rook e1. This pawn is hit. This rook is hit. Rook c6. Computer is recommending queen here. Look at all the different checking possibilities. If the bishop moves somewhere, maybe there's rook to f1. Too many threats, and simply can't cope with all of them. So as it was in this round 3 game, after queen takes on d7, after the queen recaptured the rook, black ended up resigning. So that's all for this video. Feel free to check out the annotation link at the end of this video for round 4 of this tournament, or check in the video's description for links to the other 14 games.